let's look at My Papa's Waltz. This is on page 505. So again, you want to look at how you're feeling. You want to look at the message, the underlying message, and maybe the higher message. So let's go ahead and read this one. The whiskey on your breath could make a small boy dizzy, but I hung on like death. Such waltzing was not easy. We romped until the pan slid from the kitchen shelf. My mother's countenance could not unfrown itself. The hand that held my wrist was battered on one knuckle. At every step you missed, my right ear scraped a buckle. You beat time on my head with a palm caked hard by dirt, then waltzed me off to bed, still clinging to your shirt. And so, how do we feel? What's going on? We could look at this is a we look at the message of this poem, My Papa's Waltz. So we know that we have a father here who is probably inebriated or tipsy and has picked up his child, who is a small boy, and is kind of dancing around the room with him. The movements, because of the inebriation, are probably jerky and uncoordinated or maybe unbalanced. And so you see that the kid is hanging on. They romp around the pans, and the pans all come down. And of course, his mother is upset by this. He sees, maybe blood or scabs on one hand of his father's that's holding him. And then every now and then, the child's ear will scrape a buckle as they maybe tumble a little bit. We see this moment where he's maybe patting the kid on the head or beating time on his head, and he's got that palm that is dirty. So maybe the father, came home after work or went drinking and then came home. And then, the father takes that child to bed. So how does this poem make you feel? What does it mean? I would suggest pausing this video for a bit just to kind of look it over, decide how you feel about it and what you think it means, and then we'll move on and discuss it. Okay, so let's look at the interpretation of the poem. We do see whiskey on your breath, so that does show that the father is inebriated. We could say that this is maybe an abusive type of waltz that we're seeing here. The kid hangs on like death, and he says the waltzing's not easy. He sees his father's got battered knuckles. He sees that, or his right ear is scraping a buckle every time that they stumble. You beat time on my head. This could be perhaps not a straightforward abusive relationship, but this could be a scary moment. We could also look at this as being a fun moment for the child. We think of picking up a child and swinging them around, hung on like death, romped until the pan slid off the kitchen shelf. So romped is a word that, maybe shows that they're having fun. And maybe they have this attachment that causes the mother to, be even more upset than just the pans coming down. We see this waltzed off to bed, still clinging to your shirt. Even though that the papa is taking him to bed, the child doesn't want to let go and wants to continue this. So we might look at this as more of a fun moment between the father and his son. And then how effective is the poem and what is its significance? I would say because I have these two interpretations, I would say this poem is effective in that I'm able to see kind of both sides of this. The child might be experiencing both things of fear and enjoyment at the same time. And so I think this is effective in being somewhat vague into specifically what's going on to where we actually see that, or we actually feel that emotion of fear and joy kind of mixed up together. So I would say that this poem is effective in what it's doing.